everybody. Welcome to this week's Coffee with Hila. Hope you had a good week. Well, it's been very eventful for me, especially last night, to Israel in particular, and everybody who's got family there. So yeah, we didn't have much sleep, but we woke up very happy and very proud of our Air Force and IDF for the amazing job they've done, because there was 361 hostile drones and ballistic missiles and other kind of missiles that were launched into Israel from the Islamic Republic of Iran, and 99% were intercepted. We had help from allies, which was nice, but yeah, we did an amazing job, so we're so well pleased. And that brings me to the subject today, which is Iran, because I was going to touch on it a little bit, and then things happened in the week which actually offended people who I've met recently that fight hand in hand with Israel. And I feel it's not doing them justice to call them Iran, or to call them, to call Iran the Islamic Republic Iran, and like blame them for what is happening. It's a bit confusing. So, well, on the main picture of this video is like one of the little photos is Know the Difference. It's a difference that I myself wasn't very much aware of until recently, I must admit, that there are different flags to the Islamic Republic of Iran, which has something like two crescents or something like a terrorist IRGC symbol in the center of the flag, and the people of Iran, which have the lion in the center of the flag. And the people of Iran, the majority of them, greatly miss Prince Pahlavi, who used to be their leader, and they are now oppressed and hostages of the Islamic Republic. So before I start talking about all of it, I want to start with a story, as usual. So last summer, I moved home and I had somebody come and do some work in my house. And he was an Iranian who I knew, his wife. And we started talking, and he said that she was currently in Iran, and he was very concerned about her safe return home. And we spoke a little bit, and I found out he's not the only one. It's not the first time that I've heard of people who've got family in Iran and they go and visit them, and then they're really scared they won't be able to come back, or they're scared something's going to happen to them when they're there. And we sort of take it for granted when you go home that it's your home, that you'll be protected. But it's not the case for Iranian people, because the country is governed by terrorists. So we started talking about it, and he said to me, he started talking to me about Bibi Netanyahu, and I thought, oh, okay, here we go. Everybody wants to lash out at Israel, starts with Bibi Netanyahu. So, okay, I'm going to hear him out. And what he said shocked me, because his complaint to Bibi, or I call him Bibi, people call him Netanyahu, but his complaint to him was that he didn't finish off the terrorist Islamic regime yet. And they're waiting for us to do that. And I was really surprised, because I thought, hang on, we got our own terrorists, we got our own problems that we need to deal with. Why do we need to come and save you from why do you expect Bibi to do that? I didn't really understand what he was talking about. And then after I spoke to him, I started researching a little bit more, and more recently I met Iranian people beautiful people who stand alongside Israel and help us fight for freedom and for the truth. And it made everything so much more clear to me. And I know for many of you it's also confusing, so it's important for me to try and help a little bit to clear the picture. So what happened yesterday in Israel was we've been attacked by the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, the Islamic Republic of Iran is, together with Russia and Qatar, are the biggest sponsors, and they train and they teach, and they are the godfathers of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen and the Islamic Jihad and all those terrorist organizations out to finish off Israel. And because we're just the last little part that they need in order to have to regain a lot of control in a lot of the Middle East, and pretty much ruin the Middle East. But what I learned is, whilst we in Israel live as free people, and thank God we're not controlled by any Palestinians, Arab Palestinians, Gazans, or anyone else, we can tell you the truth. Now, whether you want to believe us or not is a whole other story, but we're free people and we're free to share what happens there. And even the Pallywood and all the lies coming out from Gaza and from the Palestinians or so-called Palestinians are in your face because Israel is a free country and it allows it to come out. That's not the case in Iran. And what happens in Iran is that the people in Iran are oppressed, and the Iranian terrorist regime, which has been appointed by the UN to head of human rights, which is like, seriously, like taking a pedophile and making him a kindergarten nurse. It's absolutely not, there's nothing rational or logical about it. So the Iranian terrorist regime, which controls Iran, controls the people's speech, freedom, and they oppress people, kill people, murder people, and do all the atrocities that have been done to Israel on the 7th of October to their own people in Iran on a regular basis, but people don't know. And the reason people don't know many times is because they cannot get the truth out without being killed. Because if anybody speaks the truth in Iran, they're being imprisoned, tortured, murdered, and nobody even knows. So only if you start talking to people, you start finding out all the truth, and you see photos of those young people who were arrested and then killed because either they weren't dressed according to the Islamist radical regime, or they were not complying with the oppression that they were through. So the majority of the people in Iran are true freedom fighters. They are trying to free themselves from this regime. And what the world doesn't understand, the progressive, the woke, the left, all those people who are liberal and preach freedom and preach equality and preach living as free people, actually cause an enormous amount of people to live in continuous suffering because they support the Islamist regime, the terrorist Islamist regime of Iran, which oppresses its people. They support the Palestinian narrative, which tries to finish off Israel and commit genocide against the Jewish people in Israel and in other places around the world. As you see, like I always said, Israel is only the canary, and whatever happens to Israel now is going to come to your doorstep if you don't stop it from spreading out. But what happens at the moment is that the world seems to have lost any kind of connection with reality. And I understand it. There's a lot of confusion out there. So especially if you're not... My main reason of doing these YouTubes is telling you my story from my knowledge, from my experience, because I grew up in it, because I know Israel and I know the terrorists and I know what we're dealing with and I know their bluffs and I know their lies and I know the methods. So I can share with you my truth, but I cannot share with you the truth of the Iranian people because I wasn't brought up there. I didn't grow up there. So the same for you. I'm sure it's very confusing if you're not from the region, understanding what is going on. So it takes a lot of research into talking to true people, agenda-free people, because all the things that you see many times on the news and outlets and on all sorts of publications are based on certain agendas. But when you talk to people on the street, when you talk to the real people who escaped that, you actually find out a lot of things that you didn't know. For example, how many... there are people who have been kidnapped in London, Iranian people who've been kidnapped in London for speaking out the truth, for being freedom fighters. Lily Moose, that's her Instagram name, who was a freedom fighter, an Iranian freedom fighter, had to escape the UK because they couldn't guarantee her safety. And people, amazing people who fight alongside us, like Nia Gorbani and Yosef, hang on, there's two other names which I recently met them, Shahab Zaheri and Hashem Yosefi. And there's others that I don't even know their names, and I apologize to you because you're all brilliant people. But you speak to them and you find out their stories and what happens to them, and they know how to distinguish between people who are genuine freedom fighters and between people who are a little bit suspicious because they were supporters of communism and they were supporters of the regime, and then suddenly in the UK, they start wanting to come to the protest with Israel. So they're a little bit suspicious of them. I have very little ways of knowing what is genuine and what isn't, because I don't know the language and I don't understand the mentality as well as people who came out from there. But if you listen to the people and if you look at what they're doing, the signs speak for themselves. Because there is a video in a football pitch, in a football match in Iran, when the Islamic regime put a Palestinian flag and the whole crowd shouted, shove that Palestinian flag up your ass, and they sing it, and it's actually really funny to watch. And there is an Israeli flag has been drawn on the floor at the entrance to a university in Iran, where the Islamic regime intended for people to walk on it, to step on it, to humiliate us. And the people actually ensured that they don't do that. So they walk around it, and there is people who risk their lives and screen the flags of Israel and the flag of Iran, not the Islamic Republic, the flag of Iran with the lion in the middle on a monument in Iran, which is very famous. And they write, there's a graffiti on the wall after what happened yesterday to Israel: continue what you've done, we are with you, fight them. We want you to rid us from that. So the majority of the people in Iran are living in oppression, and they are crying out for freedom, and they want Israel to help them set free, because it's all connected. Because the terrorists we're suffering from are the terrorists they're suffering from. It's the same method, the same sick ideology, the same oppression, the same dictatorship, and it's time for people to wake up and see the truth. So first of all, for my Israeli Jewish followers and friends, it's important for us to not offend our close friends who are true allies, and they fight with us because they understand what we're going through. So I think it's really important that we know the difference. So when we say Iran attacked, it can be perceived as offensive to them, because for them, they are Iran. So who attacked us is the IRGC, which is a terrorist group, which is governing Iran. So it's the Islamic Republic of Iran. And it's very important to make this differentiation, because the majority of the people in Iran are freedom lovers, peaceful people just like us. And it's important to do this differentiation. And for other people around the world, open your eyes to the truth, because people are crying out, risking their lives. People who left Iran cannot be in contact, and if they advocate for the truth and for peace and for freedom, they cannot go back to Iran. They cannot be in contact with their families. They don't want to risk their families. People who go there on holiday risk their lives, risk being caught in God knows what made up reason, so that they are tortured, imprisoned, and it's not, there is a reason why they protest with us. There is a reason why we feel such a close bond, because the methods are the same and the message is the same. And what the Iranian people, the majority of the Iranian people who oppose the Islamic regime are going through is very similar to what Israelis are going through with the terrorists who come out of Gaza, of Judea and Samaria, of East Jerusalem, all those people who call themselves Palestinians. Their narratives, they're puppets of Iran. They are puppets of hatred and of a genocidal ideology. And all the people that were marching yesterday, I was in another march with a lot of people who are dark people, honestly, dark people. You see their slogans, and they're like, they shout out those lies about Israel, genocide. What genocide? What genocide? Like, it's just been proved that Hamas had lied about the numbers of casualties, which was no surprise to me. I doubted it from the word go, and I never actually on my Instagram page wrote the number that Hamas gave, because I never believed it from the word go. And now Hamas themselves admit that there was like 11,000 less. So they said 33, so maybe 21 or 22,000 casualties were in Gaza, out of which 90% are terrorists. You can call them children. You can look at my videos on Instagram and in other places. Their children are not exactly your everyday normal child. They are holding AK-47s, and they are carrying explosives, and they're being used. They're actually being used for delivering weapons and explosives and munitions from one place to another, so that they won't be suspected. But nobody targets them, by the way. You know, that the big difference between us and between them is that we don't target them. And when there were people marching yesterday with their pallywood, making like paper babies full of blood, as if Israel killed babies, for the love of God, you know. Israel would never deliberately kill a child. And it's about time that the world wakes up and understands that the only reason a child is dead in Gaza is because Hamas either put them in danger deliberately, or because they refused their hiding, or because like going somewhere where they can be safe, or because they were in a place where something exploded next to them or underneath them and hurt them unintentionally. But no IDF soldier would ever kill a baby on purpose, and I don't care which Bollywood you've seen. I really don't care. I heard about those things, and I wouldn't even watch them because they're absolute lies and manipulations. So these people marching in the hate fests against Israel and asking Britain to stop arming Israel and trying to support this dark terrorist regime actually did murder babies, actually did cut open a pregnant woman's belly and took out her unborn baby and slaughtered him and slaughtered her and killed her husband and mutilated people and beheaded babies and burnt people alive. And the things that they did were so atrocious that the fact that there are actually people marching down the streets and trying to turn it around as if we've done all those things is pathetic. It really is pathetic. If anybody believes that, then they are, I don't know which planet you're living on, because you are so far beyond brainwashed. Your conscience has been twisted to the point where you're unable to see the truth. So if you actually want to see the truth, speak to the Iranians, speak to the Israelis, the Iranians who oppose the regime, the true Iranians who miss Prince Pahlavi, who want him to bring Iran to modern times as it was before, because they were free people, they were modern people, they were creative people, and they had to take it on out of Iran because they were oppressed by the Islamic regime. So if you speak to them, if you speak to Israelis who are agenda free and who know the truth and who lived through terror, they can tell you the truth. And if you speak to, I always repeat myself, you know, but there are those people that their message is very clear and very consistent. So choose them, choose the truth, and follow the people that you know that are going to deliver you the truth. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Iran, because I'm not an expert, Emily in Tel Aviv does a lot of videos. Emily in Tel Aviv is her name, their Instagram name, of videos about Iran. And there are people who know a lot more than I do. My main objective of this video is for people to differentiate the fact that there are two individual entities in Iran, and the majority one is the peace-loving people who are Iranians, Persians, who are against radical Islam, and the other group is the radical Islamists who support the IRGC, which I suspect are either connected to them in one way or another, or oppressed by them, so that they feel they have to comply. So yeah, so that's all for today. I wish you a good week. Keep on fighting for the truth and for freedom. We won't be silenced. There are people trying to silence us, but we're not going to let them. We're gonna get the truth out there because it has to be heard. Have a good week.